Anyways, okay. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about timelines because I get asked about timelines all the time. And especially, I have a lot of people who come to me with an understanding that's connected to the new earth or new earth theory. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the new earth theory, it basically says something like this. Again, I am summarizing here. I am not claiming to perfectly represent new earth theory. So in case anybody on here is feeling particularly litigious, high level, it says that some people on earth are learning how to evolve their spirit in such a way that they will be able to move into a different timeline where there is a new earth, and they will have a different experience based on their movement into this new earth, this new timeline. There are a lot of people who have talked about this, including a lot of people that I really like. And also, there have been a lot of people who talk about this who I don't particularly agree with or care for. So you kind of get a pretty large range of people who talk about the idea of like this new timeline or this new earth theory. Why do people even talk to me about timelines? What is my expertise, or what makes me somebody who's qualified to speak on this? So I have been moving through timelines for my entire life. I did not know that that's what I was doing when I was a kid. I didn't understand that not everyone had other versions of themselves in other realities that existed simultaneous to this one. I just thought that was like what people did, and we didn't talk about it. Or actually, I also was very confused because I thought that ghosts were people visiting from other timelines. So, which not necessarily entirely wrong, but I've since learned that it's slightly different system. Okay, so for me, I access other timelines and have since I was a kid. I also teach people how to do that, and that sounds like this really cool thing where, you know, it almost feels like, I don't know, just it feels very like rock and roll to be like, oh, I teach people to go to other timelines. But in reality, it's not. So to my understanding, to my experience, everything I've experienced with timelines, there's no new earth. There is not one collective place where when you are good enough or evolve your spirit the right way, you're going to go to this place or to this timeline, to this experience. In fact, my experience is that like we're shifting timelines all the time. I've had days where I've shifted timelines 2 or 3 times in one day. There are a ton of people on TikTok who will show cool little glitches of their matrix where they're shifting timelines. So I know like there's a lady where she went to the store and bought a pair of shoes for her daughter, and they were used shoes. Like her daughter was like 2 or 3. So she was just like, yeah, sure, you can buy these like used little Elsa shoes because kids grow out of shoes really fast and who cares? She's just going to use them as play shoes. But the shoes she got from the thrift store had another little girl's initials on them, and one of the straps was like kind of broken. Anyways, so she buys her daughter these shoes because why not? She gets home and finds a second identical pair of these shoes in her house already with the same other kid's initials and the same broken strap. Things like this. So we see that there are instances of people shifting timelines pretty regularly. And the more aware we become of quantum mechanics and the idea of multiple timelines and multiple dimensions, the more we're going to see these sorts of examples come to light, because it's the observer, what is that called? Well, I can't think of the name of it now, but it's when you got the observer bias, confirmation bias. So because we're aware of it, now we're going to start seeing other examples of it everywhere, but they've always existed. People have always moved through timelines and dimensions, and now we have the capability to put it on a mass media production and share it. And if you are interested in that thing, you're going to start to see it more often. So The point is, it doesn't matter how good you are, it doesn't matter how spiritually evolved you are. There is no second Earth where you're going to go, where you're going to have like a different reality than everybody else. That's not to say that your spiritual work isn't shifting your perspective and what you will experience, because it absolutely is. Every time I go through a major karmic shift or understanding of a lesson, my reality changes and my timeline changes. Certain places on earth are natural portals where you move. If you walk through it, you walk into a different timeline. So this isn't to say that there's no reason to try to do these spiritual practices or to evolve. In fact, I think that really the true goal of Earth School is to remember how to move our consciousness from this reality into a parallel timeline or a parallel dimension, and to do it consciously without any extreme emotion attached to it. When you read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, this is sort of the whole practice, is how do you die in neutrality? How do you, allow your consciousness to move out of this timeline, out of this density, this dimensionality into the next without any sort of like hyper emotionality. So yeah, for me, I don't see there being like this en masse shift to a new point in time space where things are all going to be different. I think everybody is evolving through timelines and dimensionality in their own karmic time, if you will. And certainly our core group of people that incarnate with us over and over and over again, we're all sort of playing through the same things together. We've chosen to go through these lessons together. They're probably going to be with us to some extent along this path, or they're not, and that can also be really painful. But it's not, there's no escape. There's no like second Earth waiting for us. You can't, become spiritually evolved and bypass what's happening on this planet. Like, this particular planet, this particular incarnation, like we're experiencing it this way because this is the version of Earth School that we are choosing to have our consciousness in. Now you can move your consciousness out of this particular version of Earth School, but then you're not getting what you came here for. So yeah, the new Earth thing is hard for me because I do feel like it gets used as a way to spiritually bypass doing the work here on Earth. And I want to just caveat this by saying that the real problem here are corporations and not individuals. So I'm not here to shame anybody because they don't recycle their aluminum cans. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I think there is a lot of spiritual bypassing when it comes to New Earth theory and people thinking that they can just like leave this timeline and that'll be fine and they don't have to worry about anything else. So there's that. Next is this idea of like, in magic, they say you can be an armchair magician, and that's somebody who just studies magic but doesn't actually ever apply it. If you ever read the book Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clark, somebody correct me if I got that wrong. I'm pretty sure that's who wrote that book. And it's M. Norrell, anyways. Jonathan Strange and M. Norrell. Anyways, awesome book. And one of the main characters is an armchair magician. Like he just studies magic, but doesn't actually do a lot of magic. And eventually, of course, like the book goes into like a whole different arena and it's really cool and I highly recommend it. But the point is you can be an armchair magician, meaning that you study magic, but you don't ever engage with it. And that is the same thing with timeline shifting and dimensionality. A lot of people are spending a lot of time to try to understand it, and very few people are spending any time doing the actual work to be able to experience it. That's really like the crux of what I see right now, and the thing that I love getting to help people with is how do you actually start to rewire your brain to access what it means to learn how to shift timelines or experience other dimensionalities. So Become Your Own Guru is doing just that. It's literally teaching you how to engage with the world in a way that will allow you to to detach from your consciousness from this timeline. Like that is the overall goal of become your own guru. Because when you can do that, you can literally become your own guru. You can move your consciousness to other points in time space, and you can acquire information or knowledge or answers that will be helpful for you in this current timeline if you choose to stay here. I've actually known of people who chose to leave this timeline, and they leave like a doppelganger behind here. That's a whole other thing we can get into. We get into some interesting things about like elves and fairies and cultures that believe in that. Iceland has like a rich tradition of this. But the point is that, you have to do the work. You can't just try to understand it. Like understanding it is never going to be the solution. You have to do it, and doing it sucks. To be totally honest with you guys, in June, I'm going to launch this 30-day. Is that how many days are in June? 30. I'm going to do a 30-day challenge, and it's a sunrise challenge, but I'm also going to be doing a special type of diet, incorporating fasting, and I will be teaching a group version of Become Your Own Guru on the interwebs. I don't know what platform we'll use yet, probably Zoom. And it's all for this. It's all just to start teaching people, here are the practices that allow you to live these experiences. So if you are someone who has already started experimenting with astral projection, typically what you're experimenting with is either moving to very, very proximally similar timelines, meaning that they're very close to this one, or you're moving into a different dimension or into a different density, meaning that you're staying in this timeline, in this dimension, but you're going to a lesser or a lesser dense experience of it. So in indigenous culture, we have the underworld, which is where all of the fairies and the animal totems live. They live in the underworld, not to be confused with hell. And in the underworld, it's basically just a less dense mirror world of this world. Colors look a little bit different there, and communication works a little bit differently. But this is a pretty common thing. You hear about it in almost every culture: Norse, Celtic, Aboriginal, South American. You'll find mentions of this parallel reality where like the spirits live, and it's Underguard, the underworld. There's different names for it, but it's just a parallel reality, but the density is less. So when we're talking about timelines, we're talking about dimensionality, we're talking about density, all of these things kind of play a role in this, and it is a lot to process. It's a lot to wrap your head around, because you're not just talking about points in time space. You're talking about points in time space. You're also talking about density. So how dense something is going to show you like where it's at in this field, right? So we've got this field telling you, giving the illusion of linear time. And then we've got this field, which is giving you how dense or heavy something is going to tell you sort of what kind of experience you can have. And then you also have the idea that we have timelines that are stacked next to each other. So it's not just the illusion of linear time, but now there's also, if that's one string on a guitar, you have the other strings on the guitar, and that goes on to, infinity. And those are each their own linear timeline with different layers of density attached to it. So you see that this becomes like a fairly complex thing for the brain to process pretty quickly. And we're not designed, our mind is actually designed to hold us here in this present reality. That's what it's designed for. So you cannot transcend this timeline by understanding something, because the mind itself is attached to this consciousness. And that's really, really important. So anyways, that's end rant, I guess, about timelines. And if you want to start practicing how to get your brain in order to shift timelines today, one of the most important things you can do is this practice, which I will share with you. Uh, you are literally going to just trace an infinity sign with your eyes, right? So you go slow and you trace the infinity sign with your eyes. And you want to just do this with your eyes open to start. And then you are going to do that with your eyes closed. When your eyes are closed, you will imagine there's like a little ball of light that you're tracing the infinity sign with. Eventually, you stop it at your third eye and you try to fall into that ball of light. I guess I could probably record meditation on here. That might be a cool thing to do. If you're doing with your eyes open, bonus points if you do it at sunrise and sunset. It will actually help heal your eyes. That's one of the things I've been doing to literally heal my eyesight for the past few years. So hopefully that made sense. You're just going to trace an infinity sign with your eyes. You can do it eyes open or eyes closed. If you do it with your eyes closed, eventually pull a ball of light to the center of your forehead here and imagine yourself looking into it and falling into it. That'll be kind of a cool experience for those of you who actually sit with this practice. You want to do this for at least 3 minutes. That's your minimum for this to have any kind of effect at all. If you could do it for 5 to 10 minutes, that's really solid. And this is actually training your brain to be able to engage with cross-hemispheric communication. And your eyes are really, really powerful tools for this. So there's your tool to get started. If you're interested in becoming your own guru, in joining that, it's going to be a group class. I'm going to charge an outrageously small amount for it because I'm looking for people to basically give me feedback as they're taking the class, what needs to go in the workbook, what doesn't. So it's not that you're not doing anything, you're just trading me in sweat equity. So it's going to be very few American dollars. And I'm just going to have some requests for people as far as helping me to make sure that the workbook actually includes everything that's going to be the most helpful for people. So if you're interested in being part of that beta group, I've already run this program once, one-on-one. For 3 people, one-on-one. It was great. I loved it. And now I'm going to run a beta group. So if you are interested in that, please reach out to me. It's the Become Your Own Guru program. You can reference that when you send me a message. And I am really looking forward to being able to teach more people some of these tools and ways of interacting with timelines. So if you're interested in that, then reach out. All right. Thank you all so much. Hopefully this YouTube live works.